Submission is like a dirty word to people, the word submission. You understand that word? To submit. To submit usually means that someone is superior and you're being inferior to them, but that's not what it means in a larger sense. In the East, you accept exactly what the situation is as opposed to what you think the situation is, right? Instead of you having your own idea, you understand about that word, something you submit, you release submit usually means you allow for the reality someone is superior and you're being inferior to them. That's not what it means. Chinese is a larger discussing in the East. Let go, having your own idea about that word, something you submit, you release submit, what means you allow for the reality someone is superior and you're being inferior to them. That's not what you are in the world. Chinese is a larger thousands of customs something slightly different. All there is confusion. What I'm trying to do is, because I'm dealing with adults, I'm trying to convince you to trust me. So that what means that someone is superior and you're being inferior to them. That's not what you are in the world. Chinese is a larger thousands of all the breakdown your resistance. What I'm trying to do is, because I'm dealing with adults, is to submit. I'm trying to make you trust and respect you. So that makes you feel meaning that it's right. Someone who really has a trust you, but your adults, all the written down doesn't exist. Everybody will resist it. What I'm trying to do is, because I'm dealing with adults, I'm trying to, so I have to teach you, respect you. All the things you feel meaning that it's right. Someone who really has and you will trust me, so that you will follow this line of thought that I have, because you see that the line of thought that I'm coming from is deeper than what you have considered before, and what the other people that have given you information have probably considered before. They haven't thought about it this deeply. And so it was the only way for me to find progressing levels of achievement for myself. I had to get into the science, the math, all there is in my future, and with a little bit of business. What I'm trying to do is frustrating with adults. I'm trying to limit my trust and my happy, but I'm for the needs that are right. All the breakdown what I'm trying to do is, because I'm dealing with adults, I'm trying to make it trust and respect you. So that makes you feel meaning that it's right. Someone who really has
They laugh the way they think they should laugh, and that's their laugh in every movie. As opposed to this laugh is this character's laugh, and that laugh is that character's laugh. This is a detailed approach that elevates the artist and gives them range. And it's a deeper thinking than what most people see. I'm gonna cry the way I cry. I cry really good, but I always cry the same. That's not really good acting. You're just doing you. I wanna see that person's cry and what that looks like. I wanna see this song's mambo and what that looks like, as opposed to the last song's mambo, which shouldn't be the same because that song is not making you feel the same. You're not the same person anymore, right? Because that person that danced that last song doesn't exist anymore. You now have the experience of that last song, so you're no longer that person. So what does this mambo look like right now? What does the mambo of I hate my job look like? You know, what does the mambo of I lost my boyfriend look like? What does the mambo of I don't have enough money look like? You know, instead of only being happy, you bring your life into your mambo and you deal with your life through mambo, and that you can't look at that on the surface, right? That there's so much possibility, and I want people to understand that this is not something that just has to be, you know, parlor games. That this can be something about developing yourself as an individual. That's the most important thing. Thank you.
Большое спасибо. Если у вас больше никаких вопросов, давайте я тогда задам. Есть? Да, пожалуйста.
Ладно, громче.
Я могу по-английски перевести. На английский.
Is it okay if I say in Russian and вопрос следующий. Я когда впервые начал заниматься сальсой, вот танцами, мое представление о клубе было, что это место, где румба звучит на улицах, все танцуют на улицах, везде слышны классы. Через какое-то время я столкнулся с тем, что вспоминали, что кто-то едет на Кубу и говорят, да нет, там уже нет никакой бомбы, и вообще это все для стариков, все дошли до зона. И хотелось бы узнать, чем сейчас на самом деле живет массовая культура Кубы. Что сейчас за музыка актуальна, танцы? И какое будущее?
Imagínate, no, es muy cierto lo que el chico dice, porque claro, así pasa con todos los extranjeros, los estudiantes que digamos que aprenden vamos a Europa, América, ¿no? Y estamos como que plasmar nuestra cultura, ¿no? Haciendo siempre mención de toda la trayectoria y toda la historia que tenemos. Pero, ¿qué pasa? Es real. Hace muchos años se podía decir que teníamos cada esquina mucho de rumba, que era nuestra identidad, la verdad. No había que ser específicamente profesional, nada, pero no había como algo normal, un eso social. Y así también pasaba hasta que comenzó, que comenzó a traer un poco más de tradición, pero igual era como un himno. Eso fue hace muchos años. Ahora siglo XXI hay muchos cambios en mente y muchas cosas se han perdido. Y entonces ahora yo te puedo decir que sí, que todavía identifica la lengua, la clave, nuestro sello, que ahora ya no hay tanto como antes, pero sí hay. Que el son, tuviste decirlo, no hay fuera de y que ahora para la gente que está en la juventud, para los que mueve la nueva generación, lo único que hay es lo que dice mi amigo Frankie, mucho reggaetón, lo que entiendo en mi cabeza, como digo yo, que ni estudia solfeo, que ni sabe nada de historia de música, que ni tiene expresión, que no tiene nada. Es como un género urbano, muy urbano, muy callejero, que se ha metido en las redes más importantes y ha ido abarcando toda la cultura. Por eso cuando la gente va, la gente no encuentra la verdadera identidad. La identidad está perdida. Yo hablo todos los años, cada vez, papá, la clave, la rumba, y la gente me dice, está loca, porque cuando yo estuve en una rumba, entonces,
Да, действительно, раньше, достаточно долгое время назад, румба звучала на каждом углу, сон танцевали много, хотя сон достаточно тоже такой устаревший танец, но это вот традиции, культура, классика, скажем так. Сейчас же, да, действительно, реггетон везде слышится, и молодежь, самая грустная, обидная вот молодежь, которая танцует реггетон и так далее, они не знают практически ничего о корнях. То есть раньше кубинцы и те, кто учились в специальных заведениях, и те, кто не учились, то есть они знали свои корни, румба, афрокубинские танцы, все вот эти вот и музыкальные, и танцевальные, и религиозные аспекты, они были как бы впитывали с детства. Сейчас же молодежь, которая танцует, они может танцевать очень круто, очень хорошо, тот же самый реггетон, но они ничего не знают о своих корнях. И это самое плохое, потому что теряется вот это вот кубинское самосознание, скажем так.
Еще про бачату спросить, ребят.
Это доминикан.
¿Cómo decirte? Aunque se vaya, se está perdiendo, no se mantiene, siempre hay que decir que sí nos identifica, que sí somos el sello y somos la parte de la rumba y somos la parte del sol. No se puede decir que es ni el reggaetón ni otro género que existen ahora nuevo, porque lo que identifica al cubano es eso, aunque no se vea, es la identidad. Eso es.
Собираются люди, играют, танцуют, поют и поддерживают культуру. Очень много людей, которые действительно уже не молодые, но и молодежь тоже там есть. Вот, то есть то, что символизирует кубинца, это не реггетон, это румба, сонные вот эти вот корни, о которых Annelys говорила. Нужно поискать хорошо.
Ну вот я хотел задать вопрос по поводу продвижения этих танцев. Дело в том, что во всех этих танцах существует как социальный аспект, да, то есть когда люди, это не перформанс, а social, что называется. Вот в какой форме преподаватели бы посоветовали здесь поддерживать вот эту культуру через social? Это может быть что? Это может быть какие-то концерты, то есть самодеятельная музыкальная такая культура, плюс танцы, да? Как вот они у себя, где они живут, вот это поддерживают этот социальный аспект? I was just wanted to ask how we like here after like this solo evolution weekend, and we've had a number of those already, and how could we keep this culture here in a social aspect? You know, like they could be performances, of course, but like this kind of dancing is taught, and then my impression is that it's kind of people dance it, but not very often. Like, what are the forms that you know of that we could keep it alive here?
I think it's always a difficult prospect when you have limited contact with the people that are bringing whatever they are bringing to introduce to you, and I don't think you should expect to be able to take it and hold on to it and preserve it without having regular contact with those people. I think it's more important that your eyes are open to those possibilities, you know, to the fact that those things exist, and that, like I said in the class, you plant a seed and you get people thinking slightly differently. The way that I teach when I travel is a little different than the way that I teach to people that are going to have constant access to me, because I know you're not going to see me forever. I don't know when you're going to see me again. That's my. I can't start to train you because you have no way to continue to do this. It's like if we were to do partner work. If I were to do partner work with you, it would almost be useless for you because the people that you would be dancing with would be operating on a completely different wavelength, and you would have very little chance of preserving it while you were gone, of exploring it in any capacity. But I think what you guys have here is extremely rich, and it is extremely open-minded. It is more open-minded than I have seen in a long time, right here in this place, the culture of this place. To the degree that I didn't even consider the possibility of this, the way that this is working, and the way that this is being conceived of by the people here. I think it's brilliant. And that leaves you guys open to be influenced by the things that are brought to you. As long as your eyes are open, your interest can be piqued, and it will allow you to search for what you may need to search for. In terms of preserving it, there's nothing to preserve except for ideas. You know, there's only those ideas, the concepts that I can leave, or that she can leave with you, that you can continue to apply to everything else you do, until you have access that will help you foster what it is that you're doing. You know, that it's very hard to learn from someone periodically that is away if there is not a scene to support what's going on. You always need support for things, and what she was talking about, you know, there's the young people are not listening to that music on the radios. You know, they're listening to other music on the radio. When you go to school, you think what's on the radio and what everybody else is listening to is cool. You're not going to listen to your parents' music. You're going to listen to the music that's on the radio now. It's very hard to fight that, you know, because everybody has their own generation. Change is constantly happening. For them, it's their great-grandparents' music, you know. It's my grandparents' music. It's not my music. That's why Boogaloo exists. That's why, you know, things keep changing. All the stuff that you guys are dancing is centuries old. You know, it's how do you keep this stuff together? You know, it's very hard to fight the fact that the world is transforming. But what's happening is that there's more access, more things are available, you have more avenues to seek information, and just the fact that you're curious is enough. Just the fact that you Google hala hala. Somebody Googled hala hala, I said I couldn't find anything. I said good job just to Google it. You know what I mean? Just you Googling it was enough, then I did something, right? Hala, goddammit, you know? Where is it? Nobody knows I made it up, that's why it's not on Google. No, I'm joking. But the point is that you can't expect to try to hold on to it. At the very least, what we are trying to do is open your eyes to a concept, me to a way of thinking, to a way of seeing the dance that you can apply to anything. And if it makes you curious and you go find the teacher, or you go find out, you know, where the next place is that somebody's going to be that can offer you insight into this thing, then we've done our job. It's a very difficult thing to think you're going to preserve it, you know, when I'm not here, because there's no foundation to support it. You know, there has to be an infrastructure that will keep it together. But if a concept can apply to anything, then you can always have that.
Yeah, thanks. Еще какие-то вопросы есть? Давайте, не стесняйтесь. Перевод вот всего вот этого? Так, ну ладно, то, что я запомнил. Сложно поддерживать инфраструктуру и вообще поддерживать этот танец как бы в той форме, в которой Фрэнки Мартинез дает его там, где он непосредственно живет, и там, где люди имеют к нему доступ, да, и постоянно ходят на его занятия. Поэтому он сказал, что у него разное он дает, да, у себя дома и на выезде, что называется, на гастролях. И вот здесь он сказал, что те самые идеи, да, которые он как бы дает, да, и которыми он заряжает вас, да, как учеников, именно это является залогом того, что эта культура будет жить, да, и вы не будете зашорены, и будете узнавать и изучать эту культуру, руководствуясь именно этими идеями, да, которые, как он сказал, можно прикладывать ко всем танцам, которые вы делаете. Вот, наверное, так. Да. А про Каслатину он сказал, что это место самое для него, так сказать, приятное в том смысле, что он сделал минимум адаптации, да, своей преподавательской, так сказать, практики, да, для вас. То есть он говорит, что это вообще восхитительно. Открыто. И не ожидал, да, что народ будет настолько открыт и настолько рефлексивен как бы.
Петра
Да.
Павел.
Yes, I think it makes sense to speak English. I have a question to Frankie. Yes. Speaking about ideas, you said that you believe that what is left here is ideas. And I wanted to ask you about your style of thought. And what was the past, what was the way, how to talk to this, formulate this
Про стиль Фрэнки, оформление фона.
He just said everything she said?
Oh, that was incredible.
I like that. Bam! You know? Okay, anyway, I was talking to Annelys about this earlier. I studied martial arts as a youth. At 9 years old, I studied martial arts. I studied for over 23 years. I have a 4th degree black belt in traditional Shotokan karate. Right? That was my passion through my entire childhood into my young adulthood. That formed a foundation of thinking for me because that led to Zen Buddhism. It's a progression. Everything in Japanese culture is kind of influenced by Zen, and so when you get to the highest levels of any of the art forms, you end up kind of back at Zen. And so at 16, I got very heavily into Zen Buddhism. So I have those two things as the way that I perceive everything in life. I don't have a choice but to see things the way that I learned through Zen and through martial arts. Very Japanese culture. So when I first started to study dance formally, it was very loose and very much not like what I had experienced when I was studying Zen and martial arts. In Zen, there's a very strict training system, and they know exactly what they have to do. They've gotten good at it through centuries and centuries and centuries of teaching people this stuff. They know exactly what they have to do to push you to the point where you understand what it is they're trying to teach. Karate is the same way, you know? I'm about to use it. No. So, the dance that I decided to get involved in was very different from that, and that's what I wanted at the time. I wanted something different because everything that I did in my life was so serious. I wanted something to have fun. So when I started to dance, it was a kind of a fun thing. I wasn't serious about it. I didn't want to be a performer. I just wanted to be the baddest man in the nightclub. You know, I wanted to go to the nightclub, tear the floor up, and leave. Bam! I wanted to walk in and do 2 moves, and walk out, and everybody, what the hell was that? But it was just for fun. You know, it was like I got into dance because I wanted to express the music, but I saw this avenue of expressing it that was very similar to being great at karate. It was like this dance thing where, you know, I could actually kind of really be good at this. Anyway, after years of doing that and then all of a sudden getting serious about it, I realized that there wasn't any structure to the way that this stuff was taught. There wasn't any structure to the way it was trained. And so I just started to take ideas from martial arts and superimpose them into the dance. What you learn when you learn martial arts in Zen is that all the extraneous stuff, all the punching and kicking, is not the point. The point is the philosophies and how you are changed and what you learn through punching and kicking. And so people say, do you still do karate today? And I say, yes, but I don't do it physically. You know, my karate now is in the form of dance, right? My physical exercises are the exercise of dance. But my philosophical approach all comes from martial arts. I'm still a karateka because the physical part of it is not the point. It's what you end up understanding from it. So I took those ideas, superimposed it onto regular street mambo from New York, and you come up with a system of training so that you can elevate skill sets to high levels, the same way that ballet has exercises that you do, right? There's no exercise, ballet has the bar and you stand on the bar and you do this, and that somehow makes you better. I don't know how it works because I don't know ballet. But that somehow you point your toe, bang, 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 and that later on becomes something, an ability that you have that you would not have had if you didn't do the little pointing of your toe holding onto the bar, right? I'm being silly about, don't be offended if you're about it. But so we don't have that. We don't have exercises that we do, warm-up exercises that we do to train our bodies to do these things at a high level, and that's why artistic people don't look at Latin dance as an artistic possibility. It's only a social possibility. And all that's for fun because the girls are wearing short skirts and the guys are wearing sequins. And that's just, that's for the nightclubs and that's for cabaret, and it's not artistic. And so I wanted to apply all the elements that were missing from it to create a system that could create an art form that stood with any other legitimate art form. And what happens is when you do that and you actually apply that to what you're doing, you start to evolve and you start to change, and what you end up with doesn't look anything like what you started with. And it's hard to call it the same thing anymore. It's hard to say, I'm doing mambo or I'm doing salsa, because when somebody sees me, it's like, what the hell? I tell people that Eddie Torres was my teacher, they go, Eddie, what? You don't look anything like Eddie Torres. And I go, exactly. If somebody were to ask Eddie Torres, who is he? This happened in France. They asked him, who was your greatest pupil? And he said me, but he said me because he gave me something and I took it and I made it mine, in a legitimate way. And he said that that's what he's always trying to teach people. And he told me that. He said after 2 years, he said, there's nothing else I can teach you. You have to take this now and you have to find what it all means for you. And what it meant for me was taking what he taught me and evolving it and evolving it and evolving it into a system that I could transfer to other people so that I can lead other people to this journey. And so now I have something that I don't have a name for, because it's not salsa anymore. It probably wasn't salsa from like the second week. It's not mambo anymore, it's become an evolved potential of what these things could be if there was a system attached to it. And so if salsa meant what it used to mean, which is salsa meant, the son, montuno, guaracha, guajira, pachanga, guaguancó, mambo, it meant all these things, right? Mozambique, all these things are attached to what salsa used to mean. It doesn't mean that anymore. It just means this one thing that we think we know very well, but we really don't have a clue about what salsa really is. I had a Polish woman after my show, she said, yeah, but that's not salsa. A Polish woman is telling me, a Puerto Rican, that that's not salsa, and I said, yeah, you know best, right? Because she wasn't recognizing what I was doing, because her salsa, what she learned, what she's experiencing, is not what I was doing. But so I needed an umbrella term that people didn't have a reference for. So when I say Afro-Latin funk, you don't have a file cabinet to put that in. You go, oh, that sounds interesting. What is that, Instead of I say mambo and you say, oh, you dance ballroom, right? Or I say salsa and you go, oh, you wear a short skirt and high heels, right? I can't be classified that way, and so Afro-Latin funk allows me to keep them open, and it allows me now to show them what has evolved, because it's not only evolved the technique of the dance, it's evolved how it's presented also, because we've done theatrical presentations, 2-hour shows in a theater. That hasn't been done this way before. There's been shows, cabaret shows, but to do an artistic presentation the way they do in contemporary dance of 2 hours of salsa, you would want to throw up, I can't watch salsa for 2 hours. The shows, that makes me want to cry. But to use all the things that are involved, boleros and funk and cha-cha-cha and everything that's ever been touched by Latin music, to put that into a story, to a feeling, to a mood, artistically, with high level of training, is what I always wanted. And so this was my development. It was just applying exercises, just putting exercises on the regular stuff we do. If I'm going to shake my shoulders, I want to know that there's a drill that I can do to help me shake my shoulders better. You know, that's all it is. It's a philosophy of training that evolved me into something that could not be classified with the normal classifications.
Да, да, конечно. Yeah. Yeah, the question was. Перевести, что говорил Фрэнк Мартинес?
Algo bastante cómico, porque yo digo siempre que llegué a este mundo del baile, ¿no? Por que yo tenía muchos problemas de salud. Y yo una niña con problemas de salud muy gorda, por eso no sí, muy gordita, por eso no, o sea, dicen que los niños gorditos tienen mucha plasticidad, mucha elasticidad, pero eso es solamente cuando están en el proceso de la infancia, ¿no? Porque después cuando ya comencé como más bien como adolescente a estudiar en la academia profesional, mi cuerpo, o sea, yo venía a el deporte un poquito antes y tenía como la fuerza física para poder, un entrenamiento bien específico para mi cuerpo, como bien, pero no tanta plasticidad. Yo practicaba gimnástica de aparatos, por eso te desarrolla mucha fuerza, pero como la elasticidad, la plasticidad, eso no se desarrolla como la gimnasia de ¿no? Por eso, cada vez cuando comienzo en todo el perfil de lo que es la danza contemporánea, que sí hay que trabajar muchísimo con el cuerpo, es que yo empiezo a lograr plasticidad, no ni con el afro. En Cuba, en escuelas académicas de formación profesional, no tenemos el afro como desarrollo del cuerpo. Tenemos técnicas para trabajar y orientar el cuerpo, y luego, después que el cuerpo está orientado, ya tiene un trabajo, entonces que tú empiezas a trabajar con la cosa del afro. Mucho trabajo. Cada día en mi casa no podía ver televisión, no podía jugar, tenía un espejo y voy haciendo ejercicio, todo eso que hacemos en clase cada día, bueno, es que es una buena experiencia, es como, es mi espejo. Yo le digo a mis alumnos, ustedes son yo, pero en otra época, y sí, es verdad, porque si yo lo hago y en mi cuerpo tiene resultados, yo entiendo, no como sé, como sea que tengo una metódica, que no importa ni la edad, es importante, no importa ni la cultura, no importa nada, solamente el interés, ¿no? Y la dedicación que tú le puedas dar a lo que quieres lograr. Eso es mucho trabajo, muchas repeticiones, muchos ejercicios. Hoy yo puedo estar sin bailar 2 meses, 3 meses, solamente en estirar y después voy a responder. Cada día la constancia, el ejercicio. Imagínate cuántas veces por un reloj yo hago 1, 2, 1, 2, descanso, 1, 2, como 1, 2, es como algo que ya es por esto, es como este ejercicio, no es que es natural, no es que te desarrolla nada, es como...
В общем, танцы Annelys попала практически случайно, у нее были проблемы со здоровьем, и еще она толстенькая была. Невозможно поверить. Вот. Ну, в общем, когда ее отправили в танцы. До этого она занималась спортом, гимнастикой спортивной, поэтому физическая подготовка у нее была. То есть она могла много тренироваться, физически выносилась, дела, но пластики особо не было. Она не рылась, эта пластика, она просто очень много пахала. Реально, каждый день перед зеркалом на занятиях дома, в общем, работала. И она говорит, что сейчас, когда смотрит на своих учеников, она видит себя из прошлой жизни. То есть это все приобретается. Не важен ни возраст, ни национальность, ни фигура, форма и так далее, главное работать.
Siempre es bueno y trabajar. Es como yo le decía hoy, nosotros estamos, para mí siempre es interesante. Cuando yo vengo aquí a Casa Latina, cuando yo vengo a Casa Latina, yo digo, ¿cómo voy a enfocar mi trabajo para nosotros, ¿no? Si yo no sé la gente que va a llegar, o que la gente le puede interesar el material que yo traigo, ¿no? Pero después yo digo, analizando, el material siempre tiene que ser instructivo y siempre tiene que favorecer a alguien. Pero ¿cómo hacer el trabajo con el cuerpo? Y siempre te va a entrar con el cuerpo, siempre te viene con el cuerpo, para todo. Mira como algo como de salvaje, como de baile, de estilo, para mi salud. Después creo que te duele mucho todo, hoy, mañana, y ya después con el tiempo, tienes un desarrollo para ti, para el intimo, para el cuerpo, para el cuerpo necesita plástica, necesita depresión.
Еще момент, да, с прошлой речи, когда она училась уже в высшем учебном заведении хореографическом, прежде чем заниматься афро-кубинскими танцами, они очень много работали сначала над телом. И только потом, когда тело начало работать, пластика появилась, координация и так далее, они уже начали изучать танцы. Вот. И сейчас тоже она говорит о том, что каждый раз, когда в Casa Latina приезжает, она не знает, что давать, потому что люди собираются очень разные, из разных танцевальных направлений, да, и непонятно, что может заинтересовать. Поэтому она всегда делает упор на развитие тела. И это всегда оказывается в точку. Вот.
En academia, o sea, mi título es profesora bailarina. Entonces, la metodología indica que tú con un adolescente no puedes trabajar. Tienes que trabajar con un niño, que es el más difícil, porque tenemos un idioma como cubano, es muy complicado. Y entonces, a partir de ahí es como que tú vas experimentando todo el proceso, ¿no? Es como una guía. Siempre es un poco más fácil después que trabajar con la gente más fácil.
В России ни разу не пробовала работать с детьми. Вот. Вообще по образованию она танцовщица, тире преподаватель. В общем, по идее она может и умеет с детьми работать, но в России безусловно за разницей языка. И это гораздо сложнее, чем работать в России. Иногда, да, и взрослые ведут себя как дети, это практически то же самое, особенно девочки обижаются, что там расстраиваются, плачут. Им нужно иногда быть еще психотерапевтом и воспитателем.
Вопрос был про музыку, которую Фрэнки ставил сегодня на занятии. Это была ретро-музыка 60-х, 70-х, правильно? Ну, кстати говоря, я вот хотел немножко сказать, может, ты не понял, из прошлого ответа Фрэнки, когда он говорил про то, как создавался вот этот стиль афро-джаз-фанк, да, и он, собственно, все свои систему занятий, которые он с детства, с юности применял в карате, да, и тоже к этому присовокупил еще дзен. Вот все эти системы он как бы применил к своему танцеванию, начав именно танцевать в клубе, как правильно было сказано. И я сейчас хочу просто спросить про музыкальность, чтобы продолжать этот вопрос. Да, ну, хорошо.
Yes, I'm specifically attracted to, and I specifically relate to, as an individual, that music from that period in that place. It's a very specific thing. I don't just like, you know, you just can't put salsa on and, oh, you're salsa, so here's salsa. No. It's very specific, to the point that I don't find what I am interested in almost anywhere. I have to create it for myself in order to have the environment that I am attracted to and that makes me happy, that I'm in love with. I have to kind of make it happen. And I don't expect it to be out there. What you hear in the nightclubs is salsa romantica and stuff that's happening now. And even artists that played back then, they're still working now, they're still making albums. And I love them, they're brilliant, but I don't necessarily love the stuff they're doing now, right? And it's a product of where we are technologically, it's a product of where music has gone and the experimentation. But for me, the golden age, the height of the possibility was happening then, because we were still so attached to the influence of Cuba, you know, and Africa. And now we are very removed from that. And for me, in order to take it into the future properly, I have to go back and acknowledge where it's coming from, so that I can understand its development into the future in a more appropriate way, in a more historically conscious way than the way pop culture is going to move, right? Pop culture is not going to reference the correctness of how something changes. You know, things just change, and what's popular is popular. And that has nothing to do with me. I am kind of anti-pop. I don't like pop. I don't selfies and, you know, Facebook. I just started doing Facebook now. You know, I just started doing Instagram now because I'm trying to create a business, and I need all of you to be connected to me so that you can all be part of what I'm trying to do in the future. And please keep your eyes out for what I'm doing, because it's going to be a big deal, so that you have access to me, maybe, and all these problems are solved. And I was forced to get involved, but I hid for years from Facebook. I didn't get a cell phone until just a few years. I don't want anybody to find me. You know, when I was young, I'm not home. I'm not home. I called you, I wasn't home. Now I called you, I have to, you know. I'm not a part of that. If everybody's doing it, I want to go the other way, like it's something in me that's really strong. Justin Bieber. So I am much more concerned with quality and value than with what everybody's doing, because we were talking about Tito Puente. I was showing her a video of me dancing with Tito Puente. Tito Puente was one of the best musicians at the time. Tito Puente was broke. Tito Puente was not driving the same kind of car that Mark Anthony was driving, and Mark Anthony isn't half the musician that Tito Puente is. So what's happening, right? This man is getting rich because his music is more palatable by the masses. This person is intelligent, and it takes more intelligence to appreciate what he's doing, and so he has less of the population interested in what's going on. There was a famous saying in boxing. They say that great boxing is like jazz. The better it is, the less it's appreciated. Right? It's serious business, and you can apply that to anything. The better it is, the more real quality there is, the less it's going to be appreciated because people are lazy and people would rather just grab shit instead of sitting and trying to understand something that's valuable. And that doesn't mean that it's wrong, because I'm lazy about a lot of things, you know. I don't always want to watch movies that are very deep. Because everything I do is very deep, I just want to watch stupid movies with robots and I don't care, dinosaurs, I'm happy, right? But when there's a good movie, I really know this filmmaker is doing something serious here. I recognize art, I'm an artist, and I recognize depth and stuff. But that's where I feel the potential of the thing was. I love and respect the roots and how it all started, and Benny Moré and all this stuff, and all these things coming out of Cuba. And then Chano Pozo meets Dizzy Gillespie in New York, and they start to, and Mongo Santa Maria goes out and starts doing stuff. They start to communicate with jazz musicians, and all of a sudden there's this beautiful thing that starts to happen that wouldn't have happened if they stayed apart. That potential changed the second they got together. And that potential is what interests me. That potential to me is vast and super interesting and super intelligent. And the result of that could have been and could be something super beautiful if somebody has the nerve to stay there for a little bit and milk it for what it can actually give them. And so that's what I do. I play boogaloo at my parties, I play boleros at my parties, I play guajiras at my parties, and nobody dances. And I keep playing them, and I keep playing them, and I keep playing them. I play Mozambique, I just keep playing it, and I keep playing it because I don't care what you like, because you don't know what you're talking about, you know? I'm trying to keep something alive that if I don't do it, it's going to be gone, you know? And that potential, right? And you guys are doing some serious stuff. But that potential, I'm trying to explore it. If nobody else wanted me to do it, if nobody else gave a shit, I would still be doing it. You know, I would still be trying to find the potential for myself. I'm so happy that anybody's interested, but it's a very specific thing. I'm not a salsa dancer. You know, I don't like salsa congresses. I don't like all salsa. That's not how I identify myself. It's very hard for people to accept that. You know, why aren't you like me? What's the problem? How come you don't hang out with all the dancers and you're hanging out with all the regular people? I'm not like you guys. I'm just a different person. I don't have to be like you guys. Is that okay? Is it okay for me not to be a salsa dancer? I'm into something very specific, something slightly different.
Just one. Why don't people dance to cha-cha-cha? There are lots of people who say, I love cha-cha-cha, but I do not know what cha-cha-cha, or I never danced cha-cha-cha before. What should we do?
Почему люди не танцуют ча-ча-ча?
Nobody's teaching it to them. It's not played in the nightclub, so they don't even know that it's, you know, they used to say the mambo is the groom and the cha-cha is the bride. Right? They used to say that in the play. The husband is mambo and the wife is cha-cha-cha. Right? So they're two sides of the same coin. You can't understand mambo if you don't understand cha-cha. You don't really understand the whole picture, you know. But nobody's acknowledging it that way because it's salsa. Right? They don't acknowledge that, you know, tango has milonga. You have to understand them. You have to understand them both, right? So you have a lot of these situations where you have these dance forms that can't be really pulled apart. You know, you have to understand them. What happens with cha-cha-cha, nobody's exposing you. You don't know, there's more bachata being played than there is cha-cha-cha, so why am I going to learn cha-cha-cha? I'm never hearing it. And so when somebody does play it, you run to the corner. I don't dance that. When a bachata comes on, bachata's our reggae, our dance hall, right? Boom, boom, mame, mame, no me. Right? When we were dancing in the club, you know, boom, tum, 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 and then all of a sudden they came up with "Where them on, ahuda.com, where them on," and you grab a woman and you wear them on, right? Because I'm a teenager and I get a chance to grab a girl and be on you know. So that was our reggae, right? That this now bachata comes and the guys and you know everybody goes oh. It's the same thing, you know. It's the same idea. All of a sudden now I get to grind on somebody and it's romantic. Are you kidding me? There's no bachata that you're gonna tell me is more romantic than a cha-cha-cha or a guajira can be if you understand it. It's our concepts of these things that is off. Our concept of romance is weird, right? Our concept of softness and subtlety is strange. It doesn't make a lot of sense in reality. The soft part of that salsa and that stuff that we're doing, and there can be romance and connection there, is all present in the slower forms, right? But what happens is, like I said, those slower things require a little bit of ability because you now have to deal with time in music. When you have to deal with time in music, it's very uncomfortable for people because they're teaching you to dance. So when it's slow, boom, 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 you know, and it's a wahida that's that, what are you gonna do? You can't go boom, 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 boom. You know, it doesn't make any sense. There has to be a way to fill that space, and nobody's teaching that, and so people are afraid of it because they don't have the tools to deal with it. If it's not 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7 nowadays, it's everybody sits down unless it's bachata or kizomba, you know, and those things have nothing to do with anything. It's just a matter of you being exposed to it a certain way and understanding. Bolero, why isn't anybody dancing boleros? You know, like it's just a ballad. You don't have to know anything. You dance bolero like you dance at your prom, at your wedding. You know, it's a ballad. It's a ballad like any other ballad. But that's not salsa, isn't it? You know, like isn't it? It's a lot of these songs are bolero chas from that time. Bolero cha, guajira cha. They're all mixed, you know. And you have Quelillo. That song Quelillo goes from guajira to bolero to cha-cha-cha, back to guajira, back. It keeps flipping, right? You listen to that song, there's 3 different rhythms that song is messing with, right? Kum tum pa king ting kum 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 tum pa king ting kum kum kum. That's bolero, you know? You hear that, and that's time to. There's no 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. There's no 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. It's bolero. King kum pa king ting kum kum kum. Right? And then you have that guajira and you have that cha-cha-cha mix. It's all in that music that we listen to. All that stuff is together. You know what I do? I have a bunch of songs that start as a guaracha and end as a cha-cha-cha. Right? So everybody's happy because the dance and and everybody, oh, you know? I go, whoa, hey, stop, where are you going? You know? Hey, what are you doing? So I catch them like that all the time because there's all this music that starts like that and then changes, all of a sudden it changes at the end into a cha-cha-cha, or it changes into a guajira at the end. And that's the best stuff in the world. I love that stuff, you know? It's like, oh my God, there's boleros that are boleros at the beginning. I choreographed a couple of them. Boleros at the beginning. There's a song called Nostalgia. Nostalgia by Angel Canales. That song starts out as the baddest bolero. I'm getting chills right now. Baddest bolero, and then it breaks in the middle and it turns into this fierce cha-cha-cha, like and if you listen to it and you go, oh, that's a bolero, and you throw it out, you never listen to it long enough to find out that this beautiful cha-cha-cha's at the end, you miss the whole song, you know? There's another song called, it's by Joe Cuba, and it's called, I can't remember. It does the same thing. It's a bolero the whole way, and then it kicks. Ausencia by Hector Lavoe. Ausencia is a bolero, and then it kicks into this nasty, nasty guajira in the back end of the song. Stuff like that is used in music. The musicians have a ball with that. They love that stuff. but we are so 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7 centric, and we only dance what teacher told us, and if teacher didn't tell us, then I don't know what to do, so I'm going to leave the floor, and we lose all these beautiful experiences. A woman asked me to dance bachata, and I said, I don't dance bachata. And she said, oh, so you only dance salsa? And I said, yeah, salsa, which means guajira, guaracha, son montuno, mambo, guaguancó, bomba, plena, Mozambique, hala hala, bachanga. I need another dance in my life? I need bachata now on top of all this shit that I'm doing? I have enough stuff to deal with. I don't need another dance. Forgive me that I didn't. Why don't you dance tango? I have enough to deal with. I'm okay. Let me deal with these things. There's so many. I made a list of 20 different rhythms and 20, which have 20 different disciplines of music, 20 different styles of approach when it comes to dance, 20 different feelings, boogaloo. You know, it's vast, it's rich, but we're only concerned with what we're concerned with. We're not concerned with the whole thing, and you don't know what it is until you understand the whole thing and you embrace the whole thing. Now you can start to understand the richness of it, and you can really be fulfilled by it. When you pick and peck, you're taking things that don't match. You're dealing with a bunch of crap that isn't cohesive, you know? The stuff that she's doing and the stuff that's happening here with the jazz and with all that stuff all the way back, the cakewalk and all that stuff, and back to the mambo and into actual jazz music, that stuff has connection there. There are tissue, connected tissue there. And when you embrace all of that, it is something special. You know, when you jump around the map, you don't really get to understand the full vastness of something, and then you're not as happy. None of you are as happy as I am. None of you are enjoying this stuff as much as I'm enjoying it, right? You danced for 9 hours. Some of you went home at 7 o'clock last night, they told me. I had more fun in the 2 hours I was here after the performances than you guys at 7 o'clock were having. I promise. Not because I am downplaying your passion, but because your passion is disconnected, and the fact that I have the depth of appreciation and the ability to express that appreciation in small ways, like the old Kung Fu master. When I'm 90, I want to be able to walk into the middle of the song and go, Zah. And everything that I ever wanted to say, boom, came out. Everything that I ever felt, hit it, wah, and I'm done, right? And I leave. The young man is the one jumping all night long because you're trying to find it, right? If you know where it is, say it, right? It's when you have good vocabulary, you say it. I still am trying to figure that out. I'm talking too long. Sorry, but that's my take on it.
Улов, короче, перевода!
Давайте вопросы какие-то задавайте, пожалуйста.
Сложно переводить?
Что было непонятно? Какая часть?
Давайте подождем, будет больше вопросов, а не потратим больше времени на русский.
Давайте тогда не будем время переводить.
Я все равно не переведу лучше, чем сказал Фрэнки. Вот какая часть была непонятна, скажите? Вообще все от начала до конца?
Давай заново.
Все понятно. Пожалуйста.
Я по-русски, ладно? Ее ожидания
anuncio, yo no, la verdad no esperaba mucho, yo esperaba nada más que hacer mi show, que yo no vine aquí a dar clases, yo vine a hacer show una compañía pequeña, ¿no? De varias, un poco hospital, un poco de Latina. Por eso yo nunca pensé hacer un trabajo muy grande, ni tampoco desarrollar otras habilidades como las que ahora como una parte de la docencia. Yo siempre pensé que iba a bailar, ¿no? Aunque tenía, no sé, los conocimientos, no las capacidades para poder enseñar, nunca yo pensé que iba a dar. No. Ahora, cuando ya terminé mi proceso como bailarina, bueno, yo soy bailarina, pero yo no ya mucho tiempo como bailo ya. Me dedico mucho a la docencia. Sí, muchísimo tiene que cambiar. Pero lo más importante, cuando tú comienzas como yo, que vengo de Cuba con mucha información, con demasiadas ideas, y llegas a un lugar donde la cultura, o sea, está bastante desarrollada, porque yo, sinceramente, yo quedé sorprendida cuando yo por primera vez llegué a Moscú, yo veo una pila de blancos haciendo así, esto es rusa. Y así dice, sí, porque para mí no se me mete, yo llegué de Cuba para Anapa. Y yo entiendo que es como otra cosa. Y de momento llegar a otra ciudad grande y ver gente bailando reggaetón, bailando mi salsa, cantando mis canciones, para mí fue como, ¿esto cómo fue? Yo pregunto, bueno, ¿alguien está encargado, ¿no?, de dar a conocer nuestra cultura? Pero, ¿qué pasa? Que hay muchas personas que llegan aquí, no como yo, que llegan aquí, o estuvieron aquí muchos años, estudiaron aquí, y por situaciones de la vida, ¿no? No veces lo que estudiaron, y comienzan como que a darle un poquito de la introducción a todo lo que es nuestro baile, nuestra cultura. Pero para el profesional, como yo que llega aquí, si viene con muchas ideas y quiere hacer algo, necesita obligatoriamente de conectar con alguien ruso que tenga experiencia y que sepa cómo poder entrelazar lo que tú tienes con lo que yo necesito. Porque sola no puedes. Es como un caos.
Первая часть вопроса. Annelys вообще не преподаватель, она ехала здесь выступать в шоу, танцевать, потому что она танцовщица, и сначала в Анапу поехала. И, то есть она вообще даже не собиралась преподавать, не думала об этом. И она когда увидела, что у нас танцуют сальса, реггетон, это что, Россия, что ли? Неужели не Куба, как так может быть? Ну, она поняла, что есть люди, которые эту культуру распространяют здесь в стране. И потихонечку начала преподавать. И сейчас говорит, что для человека, для носителя культуры, который хочет здесь преподавать, необходимо обязательно общаться с человеком, с местным, который помог бы ему понять, каким образом дать из того огромной кучи материала, которым она обладает, ну или другой носитель культуры, как вот из этой кучи материала дать то, что нужно нашим людям. То есть как бы не вываливать на них всю вот эту кучу, а вот выдать именно самое необходимое. Ну, с кем-нибудь, кто-то уже работал здесь, да.
Pero no es lo mismo, porque yo tengo otra tradición, otra cultura, otra etnia, y entonces yo no puedo como que llegar y muy rápidamente como que es así. Necesitas como buscar un proceso para llegar. Y eso sí, aquí en Rusia, ahora la gente baila muchísimo, bueno, de lo que yo más bien siempre trabajo. La cosa del afro, la cosa de la que está en moda, por lo que es. Pero años atrás, la gente no bailaba rumba, la gente no bailaba afro, y eran como materia muy apta y poco, la gente para qué va a querer bailar rumba, para qué va a querer gracias, no sé, a toda la influencia que ha existido, ¿no? La música, la gente quiere bailar aquí, la gente quiere bailar otra cosa. respeto, para que tú entiendas que tiene historia y que yo siempre se lo digo a la gente, que antes de tú bailar timba y a bailar todo, se baila hoy en la actualidad, todo esto que hoy aprendemos como clave, como los ritmos, como los movimientos de la plástica, eso es la cultura cubana, eso es lo que sucede, porque después de los aborígenes, que es nuestra primera cultura primitiva, se nos viene la cultura africana. Entonces, yo digo, si tú vas a bailar mi cultura, respeto, porque si voy a la Rusia, tengo que respetar los cánones que tienen la cultura rusa. Si va a bailar la cubana, tienes que respetar los cánones, y eso es importante para toda la gente que está como trabajando, ¿no? con nuestra cultura. No que lo hagas como por obligación, pero infórmate, busca las vías y poco a poco ve induciendo a la gente de que no es que tenga que hacerlo, pero que es necesario. ¿Sabes por qué? Porque es la cultura. Y la cultura no se olvida. Tú no puedes pasar de primer grado para quinto. Segundo, tercero, cuarto, cómo leíste, cómo tomaste, cómo lo estás.
Так, кратенько постараюсь. Какое-то время назад румбу особо у нас не танцевали, ну, считалось, что это как бы не обязательно. Сейчас, как Annelys уже говорила, и, скорее всего, это как бы такое веяние моды, и люди, которые начинают танцевать кубинские танцы, тимба, они хотят украшать свой танец, и поэтому начинают изучать афро-кубинские танцы, румбу и так далее. И она говорит, что нужно их изучать в первую очередь для того, чтобы понимать, что это корни, что это основы, и их нужно уважать. В общем, это вот и нам за это очень сильно трепещет.
Хотел задать вопрос. Да, пожалуйста.
So it's more a Frankie question, but actually related to Annelys' answer right now. So basically, the name of your company is also Martinez, 61, and so that you can list more than 50 types of dancing that you do. So the question is, to which extent you learn and you practice also with the people that have to learn from you, to which extent you practice African folklore, and how important you see it in what you do and what in this type of dancing, and also for the dancers of, so to say, mambo styles, and related to this, just for you to know, like, what made you follow your group, why you really have it even allowed there. So that's why.
То есть вопрос о взаимоотношениях с...
Вопрос о том, насколько, по мнению Фрэнки, важен кубинский фольклор, насколько он сам его изучает для себя, насколько он его дает людям, которые приходят учиться, и также вопрос связан с названием его компании, который называется Latina. Еще раз. Переведите на эту сторону. Про взаимоотношения его с кубинским фольклором.
Yeah. So I did that on purpose so that people would have to ask me that question, right? Because I didn't want to call it like Mambo of the Sun or something, you know, something stupid like that. So, because again, I knew that I was going somewhere with this that was going to, I was going to peg hole myself, meaning I was going to limit myself if I chose a name that implied that I did something in a small corner of people's minds, right? And again, what I was trying to do was I was trying to take the dance into the future. The idea of the dance company was to present artistically valuable Afro-Caribbean work to the public as an art form, as a sophisticated art form. To be able to speak about life through the language of Afro-Caribbean movement, dance, and art, right? And so in order for me to take this New York street mambo that I had learned and evolve it into something that would be worthy of that place in history because it hasn't been done before, I knew that it was necessary to acknowledge and go back to where this is all coming from. And I went back to Africa, not just to Cuba, but into African culture, because in the Caribbean there is also the French Caribbean islands have tons of African influences also. Martinique and Guadeloupe and Haiti, they have things that formed differently when the Africans got there than they did in the Antilles, in Puerto Rico and Cuba and Dominican Republic. So I wanted the name to imply this idea, to imply that we were doing something historically progressive with a name that was historically connected to what we were doing. Arsenio Rodriguez is credited with founding the mambo. He took the danzón and he added a section to the danzón that changed the feeling, and he used to say Diablo, and they would change boom to that section of the song, right? And then a woman comes up to him and says, oye, pero mira, tú estás honorando el diablo y eso no va con Jesucristo. And so they told him that he was worshiping the devil, and that was, because he's saying diablo, which means devil, right? The nickname of the mambo was Ritmo Diablo, right? Which is important with the Abacua because we have connections there too, right? So he stopped using diablo because this lady was offended, and so he started to say mambo, right? And mambo is a Bantu word that means a conversation with the gods, right? I like to use this word instead of dance because it's much more, that's why I say your mambo, his mambo, my mambo. I don't mean it like mambo, Perez Prado, Arsenio Rodriguez, Machito mambo. I mean it as in the Bantu, the Africans mambo. That means you're communicating with something else, right? With something deeper. But so he used that word, this Bantu word, mambo. The point becomes that this form, this part of the music that he put onto the danzón was formatted through his father's experience, because Arsenio Rodriguez was a percussionist as well as playing the tres. He was a blind tres player, but he played percussion. His father was part of the Abacua sect. The Abacua is a sect, a male sect, secret society of African Cubans that were initiated against certain elements of slavery and stuff like that. They developed their own kind of mafia type secret culture. They had their own ceremonies. They dressed in these very elaborate costumes, and they were called diablitos. The dancers were called diablitos, right? And you don't speak about Abacua, and there's no women in Abacua, and don't mention it, and it's a very sensitive thing. But Arsenio Rodriguez's father was part of Abacua. He taught him the Abacua drum rhythms, which are very specific, and he used those drum rhythms to format the mambo that he added to his danzón. And so in the Abacua there are roots of the mambo. There is history there that people were not aware of, that nobody made connection to, that it was blasphemous to make connection to. And I said, fuck all that, There's a historical thread. I'm honoring where it came from, because the person that is credited with formatting it used that stuff. Maybe he didn't want anybody to know that's what he was doing. Too late, he's not here to tell me that. I already kind of went there. The point is that those influences, those things are part of where this comes from, and not understanding that doesn't give me a chance to move it to where I think it should be. And in terms of actually studying those things, I've never studied formally the Afro-Cuban dances. Again, my specialty and my attraction is to what happened to those modes of music when they got to New York. But when they got to New York, they were playing that stuff. That stuff was included in the lexicon of the music that was being mixed with the jazz and with the other forms of music. And so if I don't know what rumba feels like, if I don't know what Colombia feels like, if I don't know what the Yoruba and the Lukumi feels like, then when that stuff presents itself in the music, I have no chance of dealing with it. right? It's not that I am looking to study it formally, it's that I need to understand where it's coming from so that the way that it's authentically played, not authentically played because it's been musically messed with, but if they're going to play that drum rhythm and it's not my regular, if they're going to start to do that, I can't keep doing the same stuff. I have to understand what that feels like, you know? And what that feels like can only be understood by acknowledging what's going on. I used to spend hours at an African drum center watching the West African classes and watching the Afro-Cuban classes. I never took them. I sat there and I watched them, and I had all these videos of these, rumba parties in Cuba, and I would watch all that stuff, and then I would go and practice my mambo, right, with what I studied. And what happened was, all these little things, all these little pauses would come out, and they would present themselves because the feeling was, I was absorbing the feeling of that thing into my dance. And now my mambo looked more African and more Afro-Cuban and more connected to where it came from because I became obsessed with flavor. I wanted to know what flavor was, what the hell is this thing called flavor, how do I reproduce it, how do I evolve it, how do I teach it? And my answer was to get back to that stuff, to get back to Africa, to get closer to Africa, The further you get from Africa, the less authentic, the less culturally connected this stuff is. That's the stuff that's attractive to me. But again, it's within this point. I never tell people go study rumba. I never say that. If you do that, I'm not going to stop you from doing it. But I don't necessarily advise it. I don't advise against it. I don't advise people to take ballet. Some people say, I'm going to take ballet because I have no dance structure. And I say, I'm not going to tell you to do that. I'm not going to tell you not to do it. It's always your choice. But if you're going to do rumba, you have to do it. You have to go do it, right? I didn't want to necessarily dance rumba. I wanted to be able to deal with Wawango when it presented itself in the music. I wanted to be able to deal with Mozambique when it presented itself. And that extended to other islands also because the musicians were playing with tons of stuff. There's samba in Latin music. There's stuff that Aguinaldo from Puerto Rico, this old folkloric, it's like the troubadours in Cuba. It's like this old folkloric, like Christmas guitar music. That stuff presents itself sometimes. We say it's all salsa, but these things are specific. And I just wanted to have an understanding of the roots of that so that I can be more like the musicians were, because the musicians that were mixing it had gone to Cuba and studied in Cuba, Larry Harlow studied in Cuba. They studied Cuban music from Cubans, and they came and they played Cuban music. They did homages to Arsenio Rodriguez and to all these people. All that stuff comes up in that era. Now you have, oh, you're so beautiful, I love you, I'm gonna kiss you, come home with me. That's the song. But back then the music was much more connected to those African roots, and I just wanted, again, to have a title that implied that history and that connection, because I wanted to do something way far in the future, very progressive, and I wanted it to be connected. I wanted to take the culture with me to the place. But I'm never going to disrespect the rumba and the African traditions by not going and studying that all the way. I would have to leave, right? If I'm going to go study Kung Fu, I leave karate at home and you go study Kung Fu. You don't study Kung Fu to make your karate better. You go study Kung Fu, right? If I'm going to go do rumba, I'm going to do rumba all the way, right? But that wasn't necessarily my interest. My interest was to do this fusion that was happening, to be able to deal with that and to present that as an artistic endeavor.
Какого перевода?
Именно, да. Аутентичность. Точка. Кстати говоря, если кто-то что-то не понял, может быть, в дальнейшем, после нашей встречи, можно будет непосредственно с Фрэнки поговорить один на один, или я, может быть, что запомнил, то я могу сказать, потому что сейчас времени не терять на самом деле.
Это невозможно.
Возможно. Пожалуйста.
Защиту Валерия могу сказать, что перевести это вообще никак.
Ну просто это займет много времени.
Это займет несколько лет.
Да. Моих усилий.
Заменит.
Самое главное имя это было Арсений Родригес. И его папа, да. Очень важно. Слушайте, про музыкальность я, собственно говоря, хотел спросить вопрос, который уже, в принципе, не очень актуален. Ладно, не будем. Да, пожалуйста. Yes, you mentioned classes that you actually witnessed and was paying attention as a visitor and surveyor, sort of, right? But not a participant, but yeah. And the question was whether, both of you ever studied contemporary.
She studied contemporary. I never studied contemporary. I'm of the mind. I'm not in love with dance. I'm in love with this particular music, and so I wanted to be able to express this particular music. When people told me, and many people told me, that what I did was not valid unless I infused classical dance, I rejected that as a young Puerto Rican man, because you're telling me that my Puerto Rican thing isn't enough unless I put your European thing into it. And that bothered me as an individual, right? That I can't have my culture be enough for you unless I put ballet or modern or jazz into it. I felt that the Afro-Caribbean dances were complete by themselves, and they operated on different principles under different circumstances, and they had nothing to do with those things. Now, in terms of presenting it, the presentation of folklore is not the point. Folklore is meant for the people doing it. It's not for the people watching it. So when you present folklore, you have to kind of now open the door and now show it to these people, and the performance presentation aspect of it is not as developed as the thing is, right? In contemporary, the way they present contemporary is very sophisticated. The way contemporary operates in terms of presentation is very sophisticated. And so I was influenced by that, the way they use the stage and the way they tell stories with bodies moving around, repetitions of things, and all of that stuff influenced me greatly. And I went to a lot of contemporary dance shows and was very heavily influenced in how to structure, how to compose choreography so that it was presented in a sophisticated way, but I did not want to lose the ethnicity of the dance. And so what happens is the people that just do the ethnic dance don't know how to present it in a way that is sophisticated and artistic, because they're learning it traditionally, which is here. And then when you do a show, you kind of have to turn it into a weird, you're in here with me doing this thing, and I'm getting possessed by Chango, and so are you, kind of. It's like you have to figure out how you're going to present that. And so, but in terms of contemporary dance, the basic fundamental ideas are in opposition to a lot of the basic fundamental ideas in Latin dance. Unless I was going to be a contemporary dancer, which I already missed my chance to do that, because I can learn contemporary dance now, but I can't be a contemporary dancer anymore. I have to be 4 years old, and my body has to grow into contemporary dance the way your body has to grow into ballet. You can't become a ballet dancer as an adult, right? You can dance ballet well, but to be a ballet dancer, you need to do that. People do that at 3 and 4 years old. It's not even respectful to those people that started. They've been bleeding, their feet have been deformed since they're 3 years old, and you're saying I'm a ballet dancer and you started when you're 26, you know, like I would never dare even mention that. So that deserves its respect. I'm not going to try to mix it. There are people who do both. In Cuba, there's a lot of dance education, and they do a lot of classical dances as part of their education. So they do both. But it's very rare that you see Cuban dance, ethnic dance, that has ballet in it, or ballet that has African and Afro-Cuban things in it. They toggle, right? They do one, and then they do the other, and then they do one, and then they do the other. They call it fusion, but it's not fusion, right? That's what people are doing today. They do hip-hop, and they do salsa. They do contemporary, they do ballet, and then they do salsa. Their salsa has not been affected by the ballet, and the ballet is not affected by the salsa. They're toggling between the two things. The reason for that is because they have not understood them both enough for an actual fusion to happen, where you're doing ballet that actually has mambo in it, or rumba in it, or you're doing ethnic folkloric dance that somehow has ballet in it. You have to stop doing that to do the other, right? And part of that is because they don't mix. I have to turn out when I'm doing ballet, I have to turn back in when I'm doing Afro. I have to remember to do this, the whole time I'm operating. There's stuff that's conditioned into your body that is in opposition to what you're being conditioned for in the other dance. I had a girl in my company who was ballet trained, and she's doing these steps with a skirt, and we're doing all this folklore and this bomba, and she's completely turned out when she's doing it. And so I have a picture of her like this, doing a step that we would do here, right? She's like this, her skirt is covering her knees, so it looks like she was in an accident, and her legs are broken, right? And this is this leg twisted around, right? Because you can't see what. And I looked at the picture and I said, oh my God, we need to meet. I need to fix this thing that you have, because she's doing everything here, right? Because they condition you to do this, right? It means that you do it subconsciously, you do it automatically. So now I have to turn that off when I'm going to do my Afro. All the dancers are like that, In ballet, they don't move their bodies in different directions. The body's always going together in the same direction. In the Afro Caribbean movements, all those movements, your body's going in opposition. You have to take a person that's used to doing this and get them to do, my hips are going this way, it's very difficult to get the brain to do that. But so I didn't want to mess with that. If I was going to be that type of dancer, then I would have, I wanted to do that respectfully and do that all the way. I have a very deep respect for art, all of it, and I expect people to respect my stuff too. If you're a ballet dancer, I respect your ballet, but don't tell me that I have to do that to make my thing valuable. That's where I have a problem.
Tenemos otra, tal vez, ahora con un poco más de desarrollo se aplican otro tipo de técnicas de relajación, de caída, pero bueno, en general nosotros tenemos todo como una base de un poco de Morel, un poco de la técnica de Madonna, técnica cubana, y todos esos elementos, eso es como una asimetría, se van tomando un poquito de todas las manifestaciones y se unen, y es lo que le llamamos danza contemporánea. No sé hasta qué punto, porque bueno, lo que ahora se le dice un poco como una nueva tendencia, es donde la gente baila un poco, no con menos sentido, pero más regado. Y antiguamente se bailaba mucho más contemporáneo, entonces sí había mucho más pollo mucho más influencia de lo que sí era el baile africano y del ballet. Por eso casi siempre en todas las grandes obras reconocidas mundialmente de Cuba, ¿no? La parte danzante siempre tiene una buena gama de ballet, mucho de ballet y mucho de folclore. Entonces esos movimientos como se mezclan y es lo que vamos pasando a lo contemporáneo. Eso que yo bailé, ahora no bailo. Ya aquí no sé una situación, sí. Como información, porque sí, yo soy profesora bailarina de danza moderna y contemporánea, danza folclórica cubana. Aunque no hay más
На копии высших учебных заведений хореографических программы входят различные техники, различных танцев, в том числе и балет, и в общем, смесь современных танцев. То есть, но она говорит, что не считает себя танцором, хотя у нее даже в дипломе написано, что она преподаватель и танцор афрокубинских и современных танцев. Ну, то есть, скорее всего, это, ну, как она считает, по чуть-чуть брали всего и сделали такой микс современных танцев, то есть программу для ознакомления и осваивания. И, ну, если мы посмотрим еще даже на очень многих танцоров, которые имеют высшее хореографическое образование кубинское, там заметно вот это вот влияние балетное, потому что очень много каких-то балетных элементов бывает даже в каких-то фольклорных номерах, ну, во всем мире.
Igualmente todos los maestros hacen como plástica o afroplástica y no sé, hasta dónde llega, no sé, el concepto, ¿no? Entonces, cada profesor entiende qué cosa es la afroplástica, que por ejemplo para mí, cuando yo llego a trabajar en una casa de afroplástica, yo hago mucha mezcla, yo casi siempre, no hago muchos movimientos casi de baile, hago mucho ejercicio y mezclo muchos elementos de técnica de la danza, no solamente como la respiración, eso no es de afro, la verdad, eso no es de danza, como las ondulaciones, eso no es de afro, y eso es de danza. ¿Qué pasa? Que tenemos tanta mezcla, hay tanta mezcla entre afro y la danza, que por eso nosotros cuando lo bailamos, cuando lo desarrollamos, siempre está como son paralelos, no hay nada de